of you. And we are continuing with the session of Cambridge now. And Miss Anju, who has taken yesterday, she will be continuing today. Over to Miss Anju.
Is it visible, Janvi?
Yes, ma'am. Just roll.
Okay. Yes, thank you, Janvi. So let's start off with today's session. Uh, so it's about, without much uh, detailing, I would directly go into my session. So it's titled Goal Setting, and the learning goals are for today are what goal setting is. We'll come to know what goal setting is. Then what SMART goals are, we'll be discussing on SMART goals. And the third aspect is how to set and achieve personal as well as professional goals. So before moving on to the topic, so let me take you through an example or an activity where you would be climbing mountains, right? So how do you climb mountains? So there may be some of you in the group who have already gone trekking. So what would be the first step that you would take while climbing mountains? So you have so many mountains before you. And what would be the first step that you take before climbing a mountain? So you may have various answers. You may say that okay, you will use a map. Yeah, you may say that okay, you will climb with all the trekking equipments. You will ask people who have climbed mountains before, or you will go there. You will make a plan and climb the mountain, and maybe you will take your friend also with you. Then you would have taken a map, and you will take necessary accessories which are required for trekking to climb the trekking and climb the mountain. Or you would say that uh, you maybe finally you climb the mountain, or you reach the mountain, or you reach the destination. But what would be, I'd like you to think upon the first step that you do before climbing a mountain. So we all aspire. So when we look from here, we see different mountains before us, ahead of us, and we want to climb them, or we think that, okay, we consider that, okay, we can reach them very easily. And finally, one day you decide to travel, or to trek that mountain, or to climb that mountain. So the first and foremost thing that we do is, what do we do? It is identifying the mountain to climb. There are many mountains before me, so which one will I climb? Identify which mountain I will climb. That is the first and foremost step that you do. Identifying which mountain to climb. So that is the first decision that you make. So choose the mountain that you want to climb. So once you have decided on that, then the journey begins, or your planning begins. So you have chosen a mountain. Okay, you have determined the height of the mountain. You know where it is located, how far it is, all those things, or all the details you get to know. And finally, you make a plan. So find out the first and foremost thing is, or the step that you do is identify the mountain. And once you have decided to climb the mountain, okay, you find out how to reach the mountain, how to reach there. So it is not one way alone that you reach the mountain or the top of the mountain. There would be different ways to reach the mountain. So what would you do? So usually what we do is, okay, you talk to people or you talk to someone who has already been there before. So you want to join a course. What do? Okay, you have made a decision to join this particular course. So once you have decided to join that course, what other steps would you take? Maybe you talk to students or talk to your seniors who have already taken this course, who have joined this course or who have completed the course. You try to understand from them, okay, what are the requirements for this course? How do I plan my studies? What all resources do I need? When will I complete my studies? All these things. So what would be the career growth if when I complete this course? All these things you try to identify, or you try to get, or you get to know from your people. So this is what we do. So find out from people or find out from someone who has already been there before. That is what we do. So we look at the mountain from here and we identify that, okay, it is quite far. The mountain is quite far and we don't see the dangers at all. We don't see the dangers from here. And one day you have decided. So the day has come, you have started the journey. And as you progress the journey, you realize that, as you start approaching the mountain or your destination, you realize that the dangers seen from very close are controllable. So earlier when you were far away, looking at the mountain from a distance, you felt that, okay, there would be many dangers. There would be many setbacks in between or in the course of the journey. And one day you have decided and you travel, you start progressing your journey. And as you progress, you realize that, okay, those dangers which I once saw or many months before or days before are now, okay, I'm nearing them. So it is not that difficult as I comprehended it to be. It is surmountable. It is not difficult at all. It is okay. Those are all those dangers. I can control those dangers. I can manage those dangers. That is what you realize. And as you start progressing or the journey, you'll realize that, okay, the landscape also changes. So sometimes it will be very green. Sometimes the terrain will be very tough or rough. There'll be slippery stones. There'll be thorns in between. There'll be poisonous fruits to lure you. So you should be aware of all these things. And then, so the landscape also changes. Sometimes it will be very cold. Sometimes it will be too hot. So depending on the landscape, you plan or alter your journey, make changes in your journey so that you make the most of it. And as you progress, you realize that, okay, you start respecting the body also. So you know how far you'd be able to travel. You know how or the distance that you can cover in a single day or in hours, how long you'd be able to cover per day. So depending on the health, depending on the physical, depending on your physical capability, you decide on your journey. So you respect your body and start moving ahead, start going ahead. So you have dangers. So all those dangers, you understand that it is controllable. You be aware of the landscape also. The landscape will not be the same. It keeps on changing. Sometimes it will be it will be full of trees. It will be full of full of wild animals. Sometimes it will be maybe it will be very pleasant. The journey will be very pleasant also. So as the landscape changes, be aware of it and at the same time make the most of it. Respect your body, understand how far you're, understand the limitations of the body, understand the strengths of the body, and depending on that, decide on the distance that you would be able to cover. And as you move ahead, you don't have to remind yourself that okay, you have to go further, you have to go further, because your body already knows it and your soul also knows it. So if you keep on repeating yourself that okay, you will have to cover a long distance, or you will have to cover a lot of distance, or you will have this much to cover, what happens is it will sap your energy. So you don't have to remind these things which we already know. The only thing is that depending on your destination, you keep your, that is you keep track of it and you travel ahead. So respect your body, at the same time respect your soul. And as you progress, you will realize that okay, you would have calculated for maybe 4 days or 5 days, or you would have planned and organized your journey in such a way that you would be completing it within a definite time. And when you start working, or when you start walking or progressing ahead, you will realize that you are taking extra time. So the body already knows, the body is capable to handle it. The only thing is that you should be prepared to go. So prepared to go the extra. Sometimes your journey will not be over according to your plan. So be prepared to go the extra mile. And finally, one day. So after covering all these distances, after facing all the dangers or changes in landscape, then body changes, after facing all the struggles, because you may not have adequate food, you may run short of water, your health will not be proper, you may not have a good health, you may not be able to maintain all these things, a proper diet. In spite of all these things, you realize that sorry, you will have to prepare, or you realize that okay, you are prepared to go to the go the extra mile, and finally you reach your destination. So you are reaching your destination, and one day you have reached the top of the mountain. So what would you do? So once you reach the top of the mountain, okay, you are joyful. Be joyful when you reach the top. So that is the time for you to enjoy. That is the time for you to respect yourself. That is where you understand yourself. So what was once a distant dream, you have made it possible. You have realized your dream now. So you are joyous. You should be joyous that you have discovered a path and you have traveled all the path and reach your final destination. You reach the top of the mountain. The journey is not over. What will you do? That is you're happy, you're exalted, and at the same time you make a promise. What promise would you make once you reach there on the top? So you realize that okay, I came all the way to reach here, and this is my destination. I've reached my destination. You feel proud of yourself. You have achieved your dream, or you have achieved what was once a dream. It has become a reality. And finally, you make a promise. What promise would you make? What promise would you make? That's a question for you. So you make a promise to identify another mountain and then climb that mountain. So it is not being there alone. It is not, okay, you can celebrate your victory. Once you celebrate your victory, the next step is to identify another mountain and you keep working towards it. So understand that your journey never ends. So you have realized this. Okay, you've really understood your capability and you have reached there on the top of the mountain. And finally, you make a promise that, okay, you are not going to stay there for long. So you identify another mountain, which is even difficult to climb, which you are not aware of. So you identify that and then start climbing that mountain. At the same time, you should tell your story. You should tell your story to others. So you should be a model for others. So how you had planned your journey and reached there on top. So same is you can follow the same steps for setting your goals also. This is the easy way. It's just remember, it's just like climbing the mountain. So you have set your goals. Maybe how did you set your goals? It is by seeing the mountains or goals, or you would have had many choices. So I'm reminded of the poem by Robert Frost also here. So he came across two ways and he did not know which way to choose. You would have learned that in your school classes. So later he says that, okay, it was that. So the roads appeared to be similar, but he could not find the end to it. He had choices before. So we too have choices before us, but we do not know which choice to pick. We do sometimes we fumble between the choices or among the choices. So which one do you pick? So whichever choice or whatever choice you make, it depends on your inclination towards it. And as you make your choice, be prepared that be prepared to face whatever that comes on your way. It may be pleasant, it may be unpleasant, but finally that will make the choice will make all the difference. Your choice will make the difference. You should be prepared to take risks on the way. It's not going to be a smooth sail. It's going to be a difficult journey always. And finally, once you reach your destination, you will realize that, okay, these are the ways which I have traveled, and I have reached my final destination. So that choice, the choice has made all the difference. So remember, so setting goals or achieving your goals is also like climbing the mountains. So a goal is a target. It's not just a dream or an aspiration. So it's a target, it's a destination where you have to reach, and it helps you to concentrate your efforts, time, energy, and finally you accomplish it. But we have our own dreams or aspirations and goals. So when you try to materialize your dreams or aspirations, it materializes to a goal. So it is said that we should make or we should set smart goals. Smart goals. We see, as human beings, we always dream. We do have these always have these aspirations. But how do we make these smart goals? So setting SMART goals, the SMART, S-M-A-R-T, it's an acronym which stands for, S stands for specific. Okay, what is your goal? Where do you want to reach? So you may have 1, 2, 3, many goals will be there. But is it determined? Try to find out whether are these goals difficult. It should be something not easily achievable, but attainable. So the goal should be very specific. Specific in the sense it should be attainable, but not easily achievable. So if it is something very easily achievable, means I cannot call it a goal. Maybe to study something, to read, to improve upon a certain skill, within how many days? Okay, I want to learn this, or I want to learn this new subject, or I want to enroll myself to this course. So when will I complete this course? At the end of 3 months. it's a certification. I have to complete a certification. So it's after 3 months or 4 months. So after that, okay, you receive a certificate showing that you are capable of, or you have learned that particular skill or particular course. So that 3 months or 4 months, that's the target, or that's the time by which you achieve that. So, and at the same time, you realize that it is not something easily achievable, in the sense, okay, you have to study your own, the portions which have been allotted to you. So you find extra time, you make extra time to do this course, and then you achieve it. So goals that you make should be very specific, in the sense it is not easily attainable, but is not easily achievable, but attainable. Those are specific goals. Then stretching goals, or how can you measure the goals? So that is, it is beyond the difficult. It is beyond the difficult. Okay, measurable. So after 3 months, I have learned this, or after 2 months, okay, I have received this. So when you submit an assignment, okay, during the course, okay, you will know, okay, these are the times, these are the periods when you have to submit your assignments. So after first month, okay, you submitted the assignment and you know, okay, this is the marks that I've got for my assignment. Then you have an internal examination. So, okay, this is the mark. So it can be measured. So something which can be measured. So I take up this course, and during the mid course or the end course, I know that, okay, this is what I have learned, and this is the quantified marks that I have received at the end of the course. So it should be measurable. And the goal, the third one is the third acronym, A stands in the acronym stands for achievable. So it should be, so here I I told you about the climbing the mountain. So do you have the skill sets to climb the mountain? If so, okay, I have decided to join this course. So how long will it take? I have to write the examination. There is a competitive examination for it. Okay, I write the examination, aptitude test for it. I clear the aptitude test. That is one target. And then I join the course. Okay, you have interview, or there is selection process will be there. So do I meet the required educational qualification? After that, okay, you write the aptitude test, or then you attend the selection process, maybe group discussion or interview, or it will be an interview alone, or depending on the marks, you'll be selected. So you find so it is measured. So it is measurable, at the same time it is achievable. So is it really achievable? Your goal of it should depend upon your background, educational background, at the same time your capabilities, your strengths, as well as the skills that you have, whatever you take up. So it is not that, okay, if you have that ability to stick on to that goal, okay, it is fine. Otherwise, what happens is you would be deviating from your track. So I try to understand what your goal is, or what your target is, and then work towards it. So it should be something which you can achieve in a specific period of time. And let the goals be realistic. I like to listen to music, but that doesn't mean that I can sing like I can be a famous singer. No, I cannot aspire to be, because I need to have, understand that, okay, I cannot be, I know that I know my limitations, that I cannot be a singer at all, or a playback singer at all, but I like music. So so there is a gap between your aspiration and what can be achieved. So it should be a realistic expectation. So whatever your goals are, maybe to write a competitive exam, and or to join a particular organization, or to do a particular course, so that it adds value to you, to take up any other activity, whatever be it, your goals, it becomes, or it should be realistic, in the sense that it should be, you'll be able to stretch the goals. stretch the goals in the sense that that is beyond the difficult. So it is something difficult. The goals that you make, it's not, it will be a dream initially, and as a in due course it becomes a realistic one. Once you start moving, the goal becomes very realistic. And as you move, in the analogy that I mentioned here, climbing mountains, okay, sometimes your health becomes bad, so you cannot leave or you cannot turn back and come back. You will have to keep moving. So it is a realistic one. That is the realistic one. So whatever setbacks you have, whatever the risks that you encounter, you will have to keep on moving. So it is very realistic. Then the third one, the last one, of course, time bound. What is the time? A time that I'm giving. Okay, I want to climb that mountain. How long will it take to climb the mountain? So once I plan, when I'm making the plan, I should be able to make it the rough plan of it. Okay, how many months or how many days will I take? So how long will I rest? When will I start my journey in the morning? Where will I rest? What all things will I carry with me? Who all will come with me? Am I going alone? All these things. So how can I take that is, what are the other resources that I can rely or take with me? Sorry. So all this helps you to make you realize the goals, and at the same time sorry, and at the same time you realize that it should be time bound, that is, try to complete it within a specific time. So your university degrees, it is time bound. So you want to learn a skill. Some students say that, okay, I want to improve my communication skill. How long do you have to improve your communication skill? When are you going to start? Is it today, tomorrow, or maybe a month later? So you have to decide on the time. So in order to make your aspirations, your dream come true, let your dreams or let your goals that you make be should be the goals that you make should be time bound. So that is one aspect. So to have specific, that is SMART goals. And once you have, that is, you may have many goals here. It is not one goal alone. Goal 1, goal 2, goal 3, like as a student, you may have many different kinds of goals. Okay, to buy something, okay, to learn a new course, to learn an add-on course, to learn a certification, to learn a particular skill, to buy, those are the academic goals, goals related to your studies. Then you may have your personal goals also. That also will, so you can make a list of it, and depending on the list there, so I'm not saying that you should have only one goal. No, we have many different goals, but when you make a list of it, you'll be able to know which of the goals can be achieved, or how many of them are going to be realistic, or how many of them you can measure so that it becomes a realistic one. How many of them are you going to complete in a different period of, in a particular period of time? And prioritize your goals. So you may, when you make a list, the goal, so if you may take, for example, your academic goals. So you have joined a course. So how many papers do you have to study? 8 or 10 or 16 might be, depending. So you'll have the number of papers to study. How long would you take? So you have the semester system, fine. And during the system, okay, what extra would you learn, or what additional subject or course would you take? That is one thing. Some courses will be very difficult for you. So how would you prioritize it? Okay, study the ones that are difficult first and then move on to less difficult ones. So there also you are prioritizing. So you may have many different goals It is not necessary that you should have one goal alone. So try to make a list of it. See, whatever, so when I say also, it would be easy for you. At the same time, when you're sitting at the other end, in order to make these things feasible or possible, it is better you write it down so that it becomes very clear to you. It becomes very specific to you. Some of you would be taking the notes. Some of you. So as you take notes, okay, you realize, okay, these are the important things. It makes you active. So try to understand the goals that you have, or make a list of the goals that you have. And depending on that, you are the person who has to decide, okay, which is important and which is not important, or which is most important for you. So depending on the importance of these listed goals, you categorize them. So which is the most important one? So as a student who have taken up this course, the most important goal is to complete the course within the specific time. Right? And it is not to look upon something else which can be completed after a certain period of time. So what is most important? Identify what is most important to you, then less important or the least important, and categorize your goals like that. That is prioritizing. And once you start moving towards your goal or working towards your goal, please understand that you should review your progress. So review your progress. Okay, how far I have achieved. Okay, during the first semester, you understand that, okay, you have scored only this much. So your effort should be to score more during the second semester or the next semester. So be in a position to constantly review your progress. So I took the example of communication skills. Okay, students say that, okay, I want to speak fluently in English. So what is the target, or what is the time frame that you give to yourself? Is it 1 month or 1 week? What are the things that you're going to do? Okay, daily read, or daily speak, or you prepare a speech and practice it before the mirror and then come and speak before a class. So what steps have you taken? Okay, after 1 week, where have you reached? So when you write it down, list it down, and when you progress, you'll be able to know how far you've been able to improve upon your skills. Otherwise, it will just remain in the paper. So review your progress also after a week, after a day. Get feedback from others, feedback from your friends. So review the progress of your goals. And as I told you, once you achieve a particular goal, you renew the goals also. So it is not sticking on to the same place always. So once you achieve a particular goal, once you reach there on the top of the mountain, you realize that, okay, your dream has come true. And you decide to climb the next mountain. That is what you need to do. So some useful tips that you can resort to are, okay, self-audit goals. So every time you set your goals, you try to understand where you have reached. Is it feasible for me? How far have I reached? Or is it very difficult? Will I be able to move forward or carry forward with this goal? Should I leave it? Or on what reasons am I leaving it? Or on what reasons should I proceed further? Another thing is visualizing. I'll tell you in detail in due course. Visualizing your goal. Okay, I want to reach, I want to become so and so. So visualizing. So you make a note of this, and finally, so you can visualize your goal. Okay, you imagine or you try to picture yourself in that position. So that helps you to stay focused on your goal. And that is, you'll be able to materialize your goals. Make goals manageable. As I told you earlier, okay, it should be something which you are able to manage or which you are able to attain, something which you can achieve over a period of time, something which that is you develop yourself and you make this happen or make this possible, manageable to you. That is making goals manageable. And always remember, as I told you in the choice that you make, so when you make a choice, you will have to take risks. So understand that there are challenges beyond your goals. So reaching your goal or reaching the destination is not easy. So you can take many examples from around us as to how people reach their destination, how people achieve their dreams or achieve their goals. So they visualize, at the same time they understand the challenges which lay ahead of them. And when you encounter those challenges or when you encounter those problems, you will learn ways of solving them also. And you progress further. So understand the challenges, understand the risks involved beyond your goals. It is not in your goals, at the same time beyond your goals. So you dream or you visualize a lot or visualize a future a lot. Celebrate each step accomplished. I also see once you accomplish a particular step, once you feel that okay, you have achieved this much of your journey, you can be proud of you can be proud of yourself, and you can celebrate each step while accomplishing it. So though that's the motivation, or that's the intrinsic motivation that you can give for yourself. So you have decided on it and you start the journey. So you start loving it, you start liking it. So you are in a position to encounter all the difficulties that come in between. Because it was your decision to travel, because it was your decision to pick up that choice. So you don't have to blame somebody else for it. So you researched about that project or you researched about that course and you decided on that. You understood what all setbacks or what all challenges will be there in between. And you also make sure that you seek the help of people who have already traveled there or who have already accomplished that task. So that would help you. So seeking help from people who had already been there or who have already accomplished those. So they will tell you their stories. They will tell you their difficulties, climbing the mountains. So celebrate each step when accomplished. And once you reach there, so you renew your goals. You renew your goals and you reach there. So it's easy. So when I say from here, it's you think that it's easy to make the goal smart, but how to achieve it is difficult. So let me draw your attention to interviews also. So one frequently asked question during the interview is, where do you like to see yourself after 5 years or 10 years? 5 years maybe. So when you're before the board or when you're before the panel to be interviewed, this is a frequently asked question. So when they ask you this question, their intention is to understand how far you are able to achieve your goal, whether you have a mission in your life, whether you have a vision in your life, whether you are able to foresee your future. So how do you like to see yourself after 3 years or 4 years or 5 years? So what are your, so people talk about your long-term goals, short-term goals, and things like that. So what are your long-term goals? So the interviewers want to find out whether you are a person who is focused. So if you have a goal, okay, I'd like to become the manager of a multinational company. Or I'd like to become the manager of a bank. I'd like to become a research analyst in 5 years. So if I say that, okay, I'd like to become a research analyst in Deloitte, that goal is very specific. So it is this focus that the interviewers are trying to find out when they ask this question. So why should we hire you, and where do you like to see yourself after 5 years or after this many years? So how would you frame your answer? So if you have a vision about yourself, if you have planned, so not all the plans may be feasible, but they are trying to find out, are you have you really made a choice? Are you clear about pursuing your goals? That is what they identify, or that is what they are looking at when they ask you this question. So the clarity with which you answer the question matters a lot. So how would you answer this question? So they're trying to find out about your ability to set goals or realize your goals. So coming back, what actions do I take to meet my goals? Okay, I have listed down. Always say, you should find time for yourself. So it is not that, okay, you listen here or you hear this and then leave. So what are the what actions can I take? So all these things, see, yesterday also I told you the same thing. So soft skills development will happen, or it can happen only from your end. So in order to develop, the first step or the action has to come from your end. So what actions do I take to meet my goals? So you write down, you have already a list, and you for example, you're writing a competitive examination. So when do you have the examination? Okay, 3 months down the lane. So am I joining any coaching center, or am I preparing on my own? How much time do I need to devote for it? What all equipments do I need? What all skills do I need? Am I good in this particular area? What are the sections for the test? So each and every minute details you try to identify, and based on that you take your action or you make the plan. So the goal is, so likewise, so people who have achieved their dreams, or people who are achieved their goals, they were able to achieve, or they are able to achieve because of their planning. And based on the plan, they take the action. They are able to visualize, okay, after 3 months I'll be studying. So how much time will I require to complete this? 1 month, 2 months, okay, daily. So I am attending this course. Apart from that, how will I spend time for this one? How many practice questions will I take? How many hours of effort, how many hours of practice will I make to complete this questions? So likewise, you decide on your actions and decide to meet your goals. What resources will you need? So if it is writing a competitive examination, okay, will I join a coaching center, or will I prepare on my own? So what books do I need? Are there any friends to help me? Is it peer learning? Apart from peer learning or group learning, okay, what is the time that I can spare for myself? What are my plans? What are the resources? How do I practice? Maybe is it online tests? How much money do I have to spend for it? All those things are the resources. How much time, how much money, who will help me, who will guide me, who will mentor me in that. So it's not friends alone, your teachers, maybe people who have already been working there would help you. So those are the resources. So what resources will you need? So you have your goals set 1, 2, 3 like that numbered. The list is there, and what is the time frame? What are the resources that you need? And it's not easily attainable. The goals are not easily attainable, but they are achievable. But so how will you overcome the obstacles? So it will not be a smooth sail at all. So what are the obstacles that I have in between? How do I overcome the obstacles? Who all will help me? Who all can help me? So again, you are seeking help. So when you write down the goals, when you list down the obstacles, sorry, not obstacles, when you list down the resources, you will come across obstacles also. And sometimes it may be your health. Okay, my health doesn't permit me to spend this much time. Sometimes it may be your financial condition or your personal worries. So you have identified that this is the reason. Once you identify that, you can focus on that and try to eliminate that which is affecting you or bothering you. That is the purpose of writing. So make a list of, so who all can help me? It can be your family members, it can be your friends, it can be your co-workers, it can be your peers who can help you in help you to meet your goals. And when do I start? This is the most important question. When do I start? Never procrastinate. So never, please do not keep on postponing things. So if you have written down, so it is not there in the mind, or it's not there in your brain, or it is not there as a dream. So once you have written down on a paper, you're going to materialize it. So when do I start? Is it today, now, or tomorrow? So if it is now, start writing now, start writing about your goals now itself on a sheet of paper and start working towards it. So when is the kickoff date? Today, now. This moment is the kickoff date. And when will you take, that is, how much time will you take to accomplish the goal? Maybe the end date. Indicate when you hope to accomplish your goal. When you try to complete that goal. Okay, start date. You may note it down if you want. The start date as well as the end date. The start date as well as your end date. The kickoff date, right? Then identify what your career goals are. What are your career goals? Along with career goals or academic goals, you may have financial goals also. You cannot run away from that. You cannot shy away from that. So you have your financial goals, you have your educational goals. And what about your health and fitness goals? Okay, to reduce or to put on, gain weight, whatever be it. Your health and fitness goals. All this comes in between. Sometimes your role in the society, my community goals. Then personal goals. Okay, you want to study another course or you want to understand more about you. That is your personal goals. Your spiritual goals, for example. Your leisure goals. Okay, well, how do I spend my time during my leisure? What are my leisure goals? All these things you identify. So each one of this, after listing down, there should be a start date and an end date for it. Make clear, differentiate between all these things. What are your career goals? What are your financial goals? What are your health and fitness goals? What are your educational goals? What are your community goals? What are your spiritual goals if you want? What are your leisure goals? So once you try to divide all these things. It's not your educational goal alone. There'll be other aspects also, right? So, or if you are if you have started your career, okay, what would be my career? So how far will it take me to reach to the next level? or the next cadre, what would be the salary that I would be getting at that point of time. So that helps you to give, so those idea, that is, if you start thinking in those lines, it will give you a clarity on your goals. So you're making it very clear. And write the start date and end date. And review the progress also. Okay, my goal is to reduce 5 kilos within 4 months or 3 months, 5 kg of weight. So what a regime, a fitness regime that I'm resorting to. So I can make my own plan. And okay, on the during the first month, I have reduced this much. During the second month, okay, I have reached this much. Like that, you'll be able to decide. So if deciding on the immediate goal or the most important goal, so you can write all these aspects, the start date and end date. What are the things that you're going to do in between? Split that into minute details, that is according to the availability of time, according to the resources that you need, according to the obstacles that you have in between or you have to overcome. And make a note of this and you keep it with you. So every morning when you get up, you can view these things so that it reminds you. It helps you to stay focused. That is one method. So if you try, if you're very good at drawing, if you're very good at visualizing, maybe you can draw a picture. You can draw a picture. So this is something which has happened. I had given the same class or same session before, years back, and during that time I had asked, in a class of 120 students, I had asked them to draw a picture. One student, it was only when he completed the course he told me. So when he took the goal setting class, he had visualized that and he drew a picture. For him it was the picture of a manager. And he drew the picture, and every morning he used to look at the picture and add on to that picture in between what all is required. And that has helped him to achieve his goal. So it was only when he left the course or when he was leaving the course that he admitted this. So it is possible. So please write down what are the things that you need to do. Make a list. No need to draw if you want. It is only up to you to decide. But make a list of things that you need to do. Then try to analyze what is most important and least important from that. And start working on your goals. Understand what are the obstacles. So work on it. Overcome those obstacles with the help of teachers or help of mentors or help of experienced people or somebody who can guide you. And finally, you achieve or attain your goal. So every day you can plan. Every day you look at this and plan for 10 minutes on how to achieve that for that particular day. And finally, you reach your destination. So there are personal goals as well as professional goals. So it is important to consider personal goals as well, or along with the professional goals. It is not that only. So as I told you, okay, your career goals are there, financial goals are there, health and fitness goals, spiritual goals, etc., community goals, etc. So personal goals can enkindle professional goals. So they can incite passion and drive your professional goals. So even professional, it's vice versa. So both professional and personal goals can contribute to the growth of either of these goals. Okay. So goals at the workplace are there. Organizational goals are there. So you have your own personal goals. Department goals are there. Team goals are there. And the individual goals are there. So this happens at a level in the organizations also. So this allows, so organizations also, you would have seen, okay, the vision and mission statement written in organizations when you walk into the organizations. Why do they write? So organizations have vision and mission, or their goal statements are there, or organizational statements are there. Similarly, individuals also to have their goal statements. So you can also come up with your individual goals and start working towards it. Yes, it's more or less similar to what I've discussed. So finally, with all these steps, with regular progress of your goals, so you realize that, okay, your goals are achieved. But the first step is identifying the goals and listing it down. Listing all the goals and then segregating it. Trying to find out what is important, the most important one, to the least important, and making a plan according to that, depending on the kind of resources that you need and depending on the obstacles that you meet with, so that you plan your own journey, your own map towards success, or your own route towards your destination. So that is what I wanted to tell you all about goal setting or goals. So it helps you to stay focused, remain focused in your dreams so that it becomes a reality. Hello?
Hello, ma'am.
Hello, Janvi. Yeah.
Yeah, it's done, ma'am.
So, yes, right,
Okay.
right.
Yes. Okay, just a moment. Please give me a moment. Yes, now, so that's, thank you so much, ma'am, for this wonderful session. And our next trainer is also here, I suppose. Krishna Kumar, sir. Hello.
Hey, hi, Janvi.
Yes, sir. Hello, sir. Welcome, sir.
Okay.
So,
Is it
Thank you,
hello,
clear
sir.
now?
Janvi. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, ma'am, Anju, ma'am. Thank you
Yes,
so much
thank
for
you
your,
so much.
yes. And our next trainer is Krishna Kumar, sir. And I'll just be introducing him. Krishna Kumar sir is the co-founder and CEO of Green Pepper since 2007. He works with leadership teams of organizations to give extreme business value through digital transformation talent, hiring, and business model innovation. A super generalist consulting professional who worked with 300 plus client companies in 15 years on mission critical business areas. He is an advisor to CXOs and entrepreneurs. He is he is a leader at capability building at Bloom, an edtech platform with 25,000 plus learners and 3,000 plus educators. He is marketing strategist for an upcoming neobank and called Branch X on product and content strategy. And welcome, KK sir.
Hey, thank you, Janvi, for the introduction.
Yes,
I'm trying to share the presentation here
yes, sir.
before I
Just a
start,
moment. Yes, sir. Please give me a moment, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, we can view the slides, sir. The PPT.
You see, right? Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's visible.
How about now? Visible, right?
Yes,
yeah.
Yes,
You.
sir. Visible. Visible.
Great. Thank you so much. For this. I can see many aspiring, um, cost and management accountants here, trying to understand the softer side of the whole thing, because you have been learning a lot in terms of the domain knowledge, right? More about cost accounting, management accounting, financial accounting, um, to understand how those things really work and trying to get practical exposure in these areas. Right now here, the whole program is about trying to get to the softer side of the things, because the hard skills and the domain knowledge is very important. At the same time, workplaces are like operate in a different way, right? It operates, um, with both like soft and hard skills. So the reason why communication is such an important topic to be discussed, and I want your, kind of attention now for next 1 hour. We're going to be spending 1 hour on understanding communication, and I'm sure your perspective on communication will, get slightly better, because the content out here made by Cambridge University Press is uh, pretty much structured and very disciplined in that way. So we will we will see what we can learn from this, right? So I'm sure that you all come out of your course, and you start working with teams and sometimes employers and companies. That's when we realize that the knowledge about what you learned is important. At the same time, there is something more to it which will make you a professional, and that is what communication is all about, right? So you're moving from an amateur to a professional, right? So it's a huge shift in which we always have been thinking like an amateur, but now we are thinking, shifting to think like a professional, and that's when communication becomes all the more important, right? So in the next 1 hour, we're going to be the learning goals. The next 1 hour is going to be trying to understand what is verbal communication, what is non-verbal communication, and the importance and complexity of the workplace communication, right? Why is it important that we should learn to be conscious about workplace communication? I've seen, like Janvi was saying that, I've been working with many companies, client employers, and I've worked with many people myself in my teams. So one thing I realize is, pretty strongly, and my conviction is growing every day, is that somebody who really puts in effort to consciously communicate do a lot better than somebody who is not taking conscious efforts, right? So the idea of today's 1 hour is to be more conscious about what we are communicating, be it an email, be it a phone call, be it a text message, uh, be it meeting, your superiors, be it attending an interview, be it presenting somewhere, be it, being in the presence of those people. So I'm not talking about non-verbal communication. So there are various scenarios which will come in our daily lives when we work on communication. So the idea is not to scare you that communication is going to be very important, and then that's not the idea. The idea is to to understand and be conscious about it, be aware about how we can improvise our communication style, so that we are in a better position. We are perceived by the rest of the people in a better position. We can position ourselves as a professional, right? So this is what I want to leave that thought with you, because from an amateur to a professional is an important journey, and we are all here. Sometimes even professionals find it difficult to, become more professional. So it's all about being conscious. So today, in the next 1 hour, I want to share these 3 things primarily with you. What is verbal, non-verbal communication, the importance and complexity of the workplace communication, and most importantly, why are employers so, especially when you want to be working with some company or other, or sometimes you're going to be working with your own team members, sometimes you might work as an independent professional. The opportunities are there. I'm sure that you know what kind of opportunities are waiting for you. At the same time, how employers value communicative competence and why you should take efforts to build that on a daily basis. So this is the whole objective of the next 1 hour. And I'm sure in 1 hour, it's only an appetizer, right? I only want to give an appetizer to you. The whole buffet we have to find and have. The whole units of programs that you're going to be doing will help you to connect those ideas and do it. So the second, the language and communication, right? So most of the time we feel communication and languages as the same thing, right? For example, people say that he has got some good vocabulary, right? But having good vocabulary and being communicative are actually 2 different things, right? So you don't have to be feeling any lesser when someone has got better vocabulary. The language is different, the communication is different. Communication is, combining language with body language, with, proximity to touch, to, it's like a holistic way of you interacting with the world, right? So it is not just about the language. So many people, come up and tell this, like, I don't have so much vocabulary. How will I improve my communication? But the point is here, the language is only an element, a building block. It's not the building. It is a building block to communication, right? Now, if you look at non-verbal skills, right? So when it comes to you go to a meeting, you see people sitting around there, and you can understand the vibe of the team. You can understand what is going on there. Is it some kind of resistance, or is there a positive vibe, right? Or is there any confidence building thing happening there, or is it very positive? So you'll be able to understand and see the energy out there in the room, not because some words are spoken, right? There are no words spoken in the room, but you still can detect the energy in the room. That's only because of the power of understanding, intuitively about the body language of the people. So body language is a very huge topic, and I'm sure that if you get a chance, you try to understand more about it. There are some fantastic resources out there. You can go and search and find out to see how body language can be used as a way of understanding people even when no words are spoken, right? So we're talking about language and communication. Yeah. Now, the next thing is why is non-verbal communication so important? Because most of the things are not expressed well. Sometimes intuitively we might have to understand what is going on, right? So non-verbal communication is primarily understanding the body language of the people, helping us to understand what is acceptable, what is not so acceptable, right? So there is something called the unwritten rules in many teams, right? So we all believe that rules and laws create the framework of any kind of acceptable and non-acceptable behaviors. But at the same time, we know that there are a lot of rules which are unwritten, right? We don't share those rules, but it is a common code of conduct which is not documented anywhere, right? So this becomes a very interesting thing wherein it's not written anywhere, it is not expressed anywhere, it is not documented anywhere. Yet it's a matter of common understanding of how people, interact with each other. So body language has got a huge importance. So it will happen when you go to a different culture. I'm sure that after this program, I mean, when I say program, I say my course. You might be moving to a new city, or maybe trying to work with teams which are multicultural, people who are coming from different parts of the country or sometimes in the world. Um, when we be part of those teams, we realize that it is not about the spoken word. It's 80% of the communication is primarily going to be nonverbal. And that realization is stunning actually, because uh, different cultures have a different way of looking at acceptable behaviors, right? If you go to Middle East, if you go to the US, if you go to different cities in India, you would know certain behaviors are not really appreciated, but perhaps in your city, in your family, that behavior is accepted, right? So being conscious about what are the acceptable behaviors, what are the not acceptable, way of behaviors will really help you to go into the environment and become part of the environment, and come out as a winner, right? So winning is all about understanding what is accepted and not accepted. So um, nonverbal communication plays a huge role in that. So I always urge you, um, always encourage you to learn more about it. Um, Observe people, more and more. Observing people will help you to figure out how to communicate better. Are they with you? Are they not with you? Are they supportive of you, or are they resisting your idea, right? Are they confident about you, or are they feeling skeptical about you, right? Are they, you know, uh, trying to, defend you? Are they trying to avoid you? Are they trying to, you know, make you feel lesser? Are they trying to manipulate you, right? All these different elements of communication is embedded in a nonverbal uh, area, and it's quite interesting because in communication we know, like, it's pretty much straightforward. A written text message, there will be a lot of things in a written text message itself, like, which will be like a reading between the lines, but body language is all about reading between the language. I mean, the body language. So it's all about observing and figuring out what is this uh, meaning about. What does this mean, right? So listening patiently, interacting with them, negotiating with people courteously. I mean, persuading. So these are all things which we are going to be doing on a daily basis. Um, what happens is when you grow up in your career, um, most of the job which you're going to be doing will be communication. And many people think that communication is not important, the work is important. um, if, for example, if you're an analytics guy, or a management accounting guy, I mean, work speaks more than anything else. I completely agree with you. Work speaks more than anything else. But for your work to speak better, understanding how communication works and nonverbal communication works can actually amplify the work you do. Because if you're a smart professional and a hardworking professional, a professional who really learns a lot and tries to experiment with new ideas, um, imagine that you are 5x. If you're hardworking, smart professional, learning every day, right? Um, Communication can actually make you 10x or sometimes 25x, right? So that's the power of communication, and I want to reinforce this because unless we understand this fact, we may not be able to take efforts to do that, right? So reinforcing why it is important. Okay. Now the next thing will be like what kinds of communication are happening in the workplace. One is, of course, we have internal communication, wherein you communicate with your own team, maybe another functional head, your own superior, your team member, your CEO. These are all internal communication. External means you're communicating with, maybe like in your profession, it could be a bank, it could be auditors, it could be another cost accountants, it could be analysts, it could be SaaS companies whom you're working with on financial tools. It could be anyone who is outside your organization, right? In both this communication itself, there are informal and formal communication, right? Now we are human beings. We can't be always formal and can't be corresponding always officially, right? So we do a lot of informal communication at work, and that's how life is, right? So even at office, you have water cooler conversations. You might have a friend at work, so you talk informally, and then you have formal conversations with your team members on certain projects. So the way in which formal conversations are done, informal conversations are done, or possibly internal communications done or external communications done, the entire equations are so different. The equation of doing each one is different. Yeah. Now, if you look at formal communication, right? Formal communication is about you have your manager, like your superior, whom you're reporting to. So you're the reporting manager, right? The reporting manager communicates to you, or you communicating to a reporting manager. It's part of the formal communication, and there could be informal communication also with you and your reporting manager, but primarily most of the conversations will be centering around formal communication, right? So there is a specific chain of command, right? In an organization, there'll be a reporting manager, and the reporting manager will be reporting to someone else. So it's a super superior, super boss. And then you have a couple of colleagues with you whom you would be interacting with. Sometimes you will be also sharing some of the work with your colleagues. So the entire chain of command, understanding what the chain of command is, a key part of communicating better. So every organization has got its own way of looking at the chain of command. When I say chain of command, it's the hierarchy in an organization. And you're supposed to follow a particular protocol, right? So why do people follow protocol? First of all, the reason is a protocol can actually help to set proper boundaries when we communicate. We know what kind of boundaries we have to set when we communicate to your reporting manager. Even though we are friendly with them, there are certain boundaries we have to keep, and those boundaries actually keep and make the professional a professional, right? Most of the workplaces have have this clear boundaries set, and those are the workplaces which perform better, because those are the boundaries which actually help the professional teams to work well with each other, to have clear expectations between each other, and work well. So performance is all about setting those boundaries, protocol, and work in that professional environment. Yeah. So some examples of formal communication could be an email communicating a change in reporting line. So sometimes you may get an email. If you're part of an organization, you will get an email saying that there is a change in the reporting line, with whom you're going to be reporting to, or the reason for it. It could be in the agenda of a meeting sent over email or hard copy. I mean, there is a meeting which is going to happen, which is important. It's a stakeholders meeting, a board of advisors meeting, wherein some of the inputs are required, and the agenda is shared with you in advance. So it's an example of formal communication. There's also circular, right? Organizations will have circulars going on to share some important announcement and update about something like in a performance review, or sometimes an annual quarterly, annual review, or could be a quarterly appraisal. So things like that. These are formal communication points which we come across in an organization. So let's talk about informal also. I mean, nowadays there are lesser boundaries between formal and informal communication, especially since we started working from home, mostly remotely. We find this thing happening, right? Because our environment itself is informal, and we are dealing with people. Right now, I'm sitting at my home and I'm interacting with all of you. I'm actually sitting in an informal environment, and I want to create an environment of formality so that I can deliver this program. So we have to find out some um, you know some framework to work on how to communicate to someone formally or informally. So if you are informing your superior about something happening in your life, right, because you want them to know about it, it's an informal communication, but in a way that is also formal communication, because it matters. It is about the matters of work. Because what is going to happen at that communication is that you're going to be communicating to the superior, saying that I'm going through something that also means that will affect the work, and you want them to let them know about it. So there is a mix of formal and informal communication which happens there. So informal communication is sometimes not verified properly. It's all about who says that and how trustworthy he is, and it's also about sometimes when you talk to them on phone or face to face, it happens mostly through that, right? So mostly at a workplace, in a physical workplace, you can see people coming in a canteen, when you eat food together, you don't formally talk, right? You try to pick up a conversation with someone, and then that conversation will lead to something interesting. It is also informative, because I've seen organizations, informal conversations are quite informative. Whatever you don't get through a formal channel, we get through informal channels. So some people really use that channel of informal communication to understand the nuances, the dynamics of the organization, the people, and then use it for their advantage. So yeah, so this is the extreme of informal communication at a workplace, is called the grapevine. That means like I said, people talk about information which will kind of provoke someone, right? It could be a rumor or a gossip, or sometimes an unverified information, right? The source of which is not known, right? The idea is that you share that information and then you don't own it up. You say that I heard this, and it sounds to be real. And the rumors and unverified information has a very high potential to spread faster than possibly formal communication. So it's interesting to see how sometimes, in organizations, it's like social media virality, right? So there's viral information inside the company about something. Yeah. Let's look at the flow of communication, the direction and flow of communication. It could be different ways, like vertical, lateral, diagonal. For example, um, a finance head is talking to a marketing head of a company. The conversation is what? It's a lateral conversation. You talking to superior is a vertical conversation, right? You A diagonal conversation could be the marketing head of a company talking to the finance manager of the company, right? So it's like diagonal, right? So understanding this, for example, when we try to communicate with people, try to understand, be conscious about, be aware about what this conversation, what the hierarchy of the conversation is about, and what kind of information we need to put in there will help a lot to make it a professional conversation. You have the vertical conversation where you have upward flow, where you're talking to a superior, downward flow, wherein the superior is communicating with you, and the policy matters, the official orders. How do you see that communication going on, and how do we go about doing it? It could be maybe in Microsoft Teams, it could be an email, text, WhatsApp. I mean, in lot many organizations, even formal communication happens through WhatsApp groups. So we should know like how to respond to it, because if it's a formal communication through WhatsApp group, how do we communicate and how do we respond to that? Here's where we need to know, like, the downward communication and upward communication. Downward communication is all about the top management talking to the entire team through a circular, through an email, through a town hall meeting, through social media. I've seen that. Larger segment of people, right? Imagine a company with 1,000 people. How do top management communicate that? The communication will be primarily through sending a circular to everyone on email saying that it's an important announcement, an update. Sometimes it comes as a video. The CEO message will come as a video, and you watch that video on the email. The upward communication is about how, as lower level, junior level, middle level people communicate up. For example, you have an idea and you want to share it with somebody who is on the top of the organization. How can that happen? What is the way to do that? Take the approval from your superior, and take his confidence, make him feel that this is going to be a fantastic idea, and then get his support to communicate that better. Present it in a platform which will help you to get more attention. Several ways of looking at how we communicate upwards, right? And sometimes communicating upwards is very important for growth. People who grow faster in any organization are people who communicate a lot upwards, not downwards. I would say we need both, right? You need to get a lot of work done from your people, your team members. At the same time, you need to communicate and understand the priorities and strategies of management leadership, so that you know where the company is going. You would be closer to the reality of the leadership. And the leadership would really appreciate the fact that you're trying to understand and you're trying to immerse into the problems which they are facing, and their problem is your problem, and you think for solving that problem, which is a way of making things happen, right? Now, lateral communication is about, like I told you, like a marketing lead talking to the finance lead, or sometimes the team member in finance team talking to a marketing team member, right? So that's called lateral communication, wherein you both belong to different teams, functions. You both report to different people, yet you communicate. Diagonal communication is people who are in two different levels and two different functions communicating. I give you an example. You're the CFO of a company, and you're talking to a marketing manager of a company. Why? Because you're dealing with something on a marketing budget, and the marketing manager is responsible for making the budget for the the whole thing, and the marketing manager is trying to convince the CFO about the possibility of getting more fund allocation to do more marketing and conversions. So that kind of communication is more of diagonal. Yeah, and it's more related to a particular project. For example, it may stop after the marketing budget is approved, right? Sometimes it may continue after some time, right? So it's more of like specifically for projects. Here is an example of diagonal communication, a project lead talking to a general manager or sales or finance. So why we are sharing this is to know the different scenarios of communication at a workplace. What are the different scenarios? And you can imagine, so now you're doing the program, the course, and after some time you're going to be at a workplace, and you can imagine what are the different scenarios you're going to be part of, right? How can I prepare myself to communicate better, become more aware, become more cautious while I communicate? So when I say cautious, you don't have to be skeptical about everything. It's just a matter of awareness which will help us to communicate better. It's a very interesting thing, section of this communication, the non-verbal communication, obviously. So we'll go to each one of it, the body language, to the language of the space, the language of touch, interesting language of time, paralanguage. That's the most beautiful part of this module. I'll take you through that. What is body language kinesics? Like, for example, your eye contact. When someone is talking to you and you are not fully convinced about it, sometimes you may try to, scratch your eye. It's a very natural response of the body to scratch your eye so that, you feel that you don't accept the view, right, of the other person. So body language is revealing the emotion you have about that particular thing. So it could be facial expression, posture, eye contact. So I'm sure that when you were in a school or college and all, you would have dealt with many such situations, and possibly you can recollect like what people were really interested in, what people are not really interested in, right? So how one sits, walks, talks, dresses, shake hand with people, carries himself, all part of the, kinesics. So I know this is a very short period to understand all these things, but these are all some cues for you, right? When I say cues, it's to give you some keywords for you to go and search more and interest, pick up some interest in that. And I'm sure that you will find some interest in these areas as well. So if you look at the emotional spectrum of an individual, whether somebody's anxious, somebody's nervous, somebody's obviously the extreme sweating or trembling of voice, fidgeting of fingers, and other people like fidgeting the fingers, all this become part of the body language, right? Now, so it's interesting to see proxemics right now, because sometimes what happens when someone comes near you, you would feel inside you that that person is taking your space, right? Even though the person is slightly away, you feel that the person is taking your space. So that is, feeling about that or understanding about that is called the proxemics. It's a sense of maintaining an acceptable space between you and the other person you're talking about. So for example, you're going to meet your reporting manager and you're standing so close to him. That's not acceptable, right? Because there should be some, it's not about the pandemic social distancing, it's more about the proxemics, wherein you have to create the physical space between both, and which is the most acceptable thing, right? It might sound like, hey, we all know this, what is there new to talk about it? But here, the personal space with colleagues is different. The intimate space is different, the social space is different, the public space is different. So in communication, it is all about understanding the space between people. And I'm talking about intimate space with friends and with your parents and all. Personal space with colleagues and social space, while moving about in society, what kind of space we have between people. It's a matter of respect. It's a matter of uh, you know courtesy. Yeah. Yeah. So haptics is about touch, right? How do you touch someone? How do you shake hands with someone? Um, Sometimes we may be in a position to, at a workplace, you touch people, right? Be it a pat on the back, or sometimes even in modern workplaces, you also see people hugging each other, when there is some accomplishment happening in the team. So how do you do that? What is the acceptable level of space and touch which we can have? I mean, that's only possible. To understand that would be only possible by observing people, how they do it and how they are, you know, using that space and touch to communicate. Yeah. So chronomics is very interesting area. It's all about time. Like how come you communicate through coming right on time? For example, there is a meeting at 5. And you reach there by 4:58. Could be a Zoom call. Right now we are all on Zoom calls, So you reach there on 4:58. That means you are serious about the meeting and you respect that purpose of the meeting, right? So you communicate even without saying a word that you respect that meeting. So communication is not all about, hey, I respect that meeting, I want to be part of the meeting, arriving right on time. So timing. Um, so how to use time, respecting time of others, and that is going to be like a big uh, determinant of your career success. And you may be a genius, but if you don't respect others' time, it is not going to really help you. Yeah. So workplace etiquette, I mean, it's part of workplace etiquette. We'll come to that later, but I want to just share with you this idea that being conscious of our time, be conscious of others' time. That is going to make a huge difference. And that learning of that is called the chronomics. Now, you might think what paralanguage is like, the word itself might sometimes terrify you, but the idea is to what kind of modulation you have when you speak, right? The pitch, the stress, do you speak so fast? What is the volume of your speech, right? Is it monotonous? You're speaking at the same pattern, or is there a change in the pattern, right? All those things really make a huge impact when it comes to the tonality of the whole speech, right, which makes the other person get the idea of what we're talking about, right? So this can be only possible by observing people again, trying to understand how you're speaking, sometimes trying to record what you speak, and then get to know like how you do it, right? So always try to find out what makes speech or tonality or the voice or the speed attractive, and then use it to your advantage, right? And becoming more aware about like what we're doing. Yeah. Now, I'm sure that you want to be part of some teams soon. Be it in some organizations or teams or sometimes firms, or maybe you work with other remote teams across. And in any team, there will be something called the organizational culture. And the organizational culture is all about accepted mode of behavior in a team, right? Sometimes in certain teams, the accepted mode of behaviors um, will be very different from the other team. So when you work with one team and then you go to another team, the certain behaviors which is accepted in one team uh, may not be accepted in the other team. So understanding that is all about understanding organizational culture, right? Culturally, we are all different people. So if you look at India itself, we have different states, we have different ways of looking at things. Sometimes um, in 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 one state itself, you will find dialects changing. You have people behaving in a certain way. So observing those things will also help you to kind of get like what organizational um, culture is all about, right? To understand what organizational culture is all about is to have general conversations with people to try to find out what is being criticized here, what is accepted here, what is appreciated here, what is celebrated here, right? Certain behaviors which are celebrated in certain teams will be condemned in other teams. Certain teams will acknowledge certain behaviors as great, but other teams would not find it great, right? So knowing that can actually help us as a professional. Yeah. So there are many offices. I mean, especially when you look at the big four and all those companies, they have a different culture altogether. So we have sometimes open office culture wherein you have a large hall. I mean, nowadays remote working is a place, but then again, sometimes things may come back normal and people may go back to office. We never know. Wherein you know, uh, share ideas with each other without much of formal boundaries. Open office culture is all about that. So if you look at, if you some of you might be joining technology companies, as financial experts or analysts, cost accountants, management accountants, you would find this culture more of like in tech companies wherein people interact with each other in an open environment, right? Not much barriers, not much formality, not much channels. So that's also there. So we have open office cultures emerging where people talk to each other. Most of the startups work like that. So what are the most important things when it comes to a, a professional becoming more communicative is, I would say, it is not about the words you use or the impressive vocabulary you have, or the style in which you talk or the stories you tell and all those things. No, I don't believe so. I believe the best communicative professionals are people whom we can depend on, people who have a positive attitude towards things, right? Who is serious about their work, who is ready to help others, right? And who is also taking efforts to get along with fellow workers and customers, right? Who is not judgmental, who is not critical or anything, right? Who is not, who is who someone understands the company's culture and fit in well. So you call it the organizational fitment. Those are the things which really matter. So we don't have to worry about the whole glamour of communication. It's more about these things which really matter. So yeah, that's it about the first uh, audio from my side is on communication. Probably I can take some questions. I don't know whether we can have questions here. Um, you know, I'll go to the question side now to see if there is any, if there are any questions. Show Q&A, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Students, if you have any questions relating to the topic, please put on it. please put your questions on the Q&A section.
Yeah. All right. So I don't think people have questions. Maybe see, we've been trying to follow the content, and the reason why I thought we'll do a structured presentation was like to cover the the syllabus in proper time. I know this is a topic which would which can take a long time to understand and appreciate. Um, yeah. So if you have any specific questions, I would really appreciate. I mean, it could be about your context or anything. If not, we will go to the next, which is the module on presentation skills. Yeah. Yeah, some of you have written that I'm not really audible. Is it so? Janvi, is it okay or how is it?
It's okay, sir, but a
Uh,
little more if you can increase the volume, sir.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I was not aware about it. Sorry. Okay, there is a question, a couple of questions now here. One is, of course, an interesting question. Most of the times I feel like I copy certain traits of different people even without realizing why I am imitating them unknowingly. It makes me feel I am being more like them than myself. How to stop this? Okay, there are two reasons for why we imitate others. One is that uh, we feel that the other person has a better way of communicating, and we feel that if we could have that kind of communicative style, that would really help us, right? So that's the realization of improving on something, right? So most of the time improvisation or improvement happens when we watch people um, doing it better and then trying to emulate them. So it could be inspirational, it could be imitational, right? Imitation is when you exactly do like that, and inspiration is when you get inspired by it and then you try to add on your own style to it. So these are two different things. But having said that, I don't think it is bad. It is always good to look at a better benchmark. Um, there could be another reason also where we feel that our style is not good enough, right? So it's a matter of self-esteem. I think we need to build our self-esteem to feel that we are good enough, we are not lesser than anybody else. Here, what we are doing is not to compare ourselves with others, but to grow 1% every day. So there is no point in comparing ourselves of what we are today with someone else, right? Instead, it's always good to compare ourselves with what we were yesterday, right? Are we better? Are we making our 1% better, right? So comparison is not a great idea because comparison is not going to help you feel any better. But comparing what you are today to comparing what you were yesterday can actually do a lot of things. I mean, you feel that have I improved? Have I done better? So comparison is between your present and your yesterday. So in that way, I think um, it can change the way you look at the whole problem itself. I hope I answered your question. Prakash is asking how to manage organizational politics. So first of all, it's not a good idea to be part of organizational politics, because politics means ever changing. Right? The inherent meaning of politics is ever changing. So today you become part of organizational politics. Tomorrow you become the victim of it. So it's always good not to become any participant in those kind of things. Anybody trying to put you in do that, you can always smile at them and don't participate in it. So don't participate in it. That's my thing. But sometimes you might be dragged into it. Sometimes you might be um, forced to get into it. Right? That is when you have to take a stand, and a strong stand of that your interest about the organization is much beyond the politics there. So your priority is your growth. Your priority is the organization's growth, nothing else. So you have to take a stand like that. And sometimes people may get irritated with your stand, but after some time, I'm sure they will find you more reliable, more dependable, and more of a professional. Yeah. So that's what I have to say about organizational politics. Uh, More than politics, I would say you need to understand the dynamics. So dynamics means the relationship between people, how the relationship with people will affect your thing. How is the entire dynamics working in favor of you or not in favor of you? You should be properly aware about that. Yeah. So question on how to practice confidence to communicate. Right? The only way to practice confidence is to go and talk to more people. Right? The only way to practice is to be in more of communicative situations and come back and evaluate how you were doing. What was the response? How did you do well? So always any communicative events happening. When I say events, it's not a big town hall meeting. It could be a meeting with one person, an important, a crucial conversation with someone else. And coming back, you should rewind the conversation and say, how could I have done it better? Next time, how am I going to do it better? Right? So this will definitely help. The next question from Kushi is how to handle a person who backstabbed behind you and you know that person, how to handle that. Yeah. First of all, every organization, people work on their own self-interest. So we should be aware about that first. They are not there to help you, not there to, stab you. They are all working for self-interest. So in such a scenario, we should always think like, how can I be taking a non-victim stand? Victim means a person who has already been victimized by somebody else. So taking a non-victim stand is key for the whole growth, right? So I don't have a clear answer for that, but always take a non-victim stand by not participating in that game of, interpersonal exchanges, which actually lead you to a, unfavorable situation. Okay. How should I behave in a meeting? A quick thing which I want to share with you is in every meeting, you should carry a diary. The reason is that the moment you carry a diary and pen, I mean, sometimes you an iPad or a laptop, you give seriousness to the meeting. You give serious approach to the content in the meeting, right? So somebody is coming with a diary, and immediately we would feel that the meeting is serious, and then you need to have serious exchanges. So small things like that, where you are there to listen more than to speak. Become a listener. And the power of listening is huge. And sharing the point at the right time is also important. If you keep speaking, nobody's going to listen, right? You want to share the point in right time. So listening 90% and 10% speaking, and that speaking will have every content you want to share. So meetings should be like that. Yeah. Yeah, I think the same question is asked by somebody else also. Like, I would like to know how to express some thoughts in a meeting when having a straightforward nature politely. Yeah. So one thing, see, a sense of humor, is a very important thing. Um, if you have a light-hearted way of saying things, at the same time you're assertive about it, people will love you. So you um, you know use some metaphors, or you examples which are like very light-hearted, and it can actually make the whole meeting feel good, right? Everybody wants to feel good, and if you can do that, you're going to be a good participant in the meeting, and by not becoming non-serious, right? So it's a difference between not becoming so non-serious to becoming a light-hearted individual in the meeting to share things, right? So sense of humor can actually help a lot. Yeah, but it's not about cracking a lot of jokes in the meeting. It's about feeling light. The next question is, what type of employees' behavior is good for job environment and an interview? So I think every professional wants to work with other professionals, right? So if you keep your word, if you come on time, if you share things like how you promised, if you do that, those basic things, there is a chance for further conversations, right? If you don't keep that, there is no chance for further conversation. So when you say something, keep that word, because that's the first impression you create. You might know a lot about the domain, but expressing these things would make you a true professional, right? Changing in habit can change body language. It's difficult to change the body language by changing the habit. Even if you are very sophisticated in, your expressions, sometimes the body language will express in itself. So I've seen that. So people who are aware about their body language will restrict their body movements or any kind of expressions to not let others know that what is going on, right? Is English language necessarily necessary for communication? No. Unless your team members. So in India, when you work with teams, most of the team members will be from different locations, different states, different languages. So English is used as a common denominator, right? The only reason why we are all speaking, why this program is in English, because we are all from different places in India. And the only language which possibly you can understand and I can talk about, the same platform would be English. So the reason why we are talking in English, right? Otherwise, it's fine. Otherwise, you can always pick up a small joke in Hindi or Tamil or Marathi. It's fine. Yeah. So, how to handle bullying by employees? Again, take a non-victim stand. Don't become part of it. Anybody who does bullying, you should clearly communicate, saying that you're not going to be manipulated by it. You're not going to be responding to it. The best way for any kind of manipulation or bullying is no response, because any bully or a manipulator basically wants a response from you, right? Have you seen, WhatsApp messages, people try to irritate you, they want a response from you. And when you respond, they win, right? So no response is a good way of managing bullying, or sometimes even for that matter, people trying to manipulate you. But if they cross the limits, you have to clearly tell them with all the courtesy. You can't be blasting at them. You should clearly tell them, I'm not in this game, right? So if you blast, then they have something to say, right? This person is angry and all those things. But we are not angry. We are assertive. So being angry and being assertive are two different things. Being angry means you are going out of your emotional control. Being assertive means you are regulating your emotion and yet expressing your feelings about what it is, right? So many questions, and thank you so much for this. But I think we have to go to the next thing, and some interesting questions also. I can see some very interesting questions. But we have one more module to finish before we wind up. Yeah. Somebody saying we need a small break. Yeah, we can take 2 minutes break before we come. Yeah.
Yes, sir, can we have a break of around 5 to 7 minutes, sir?
No problem. I would also need that.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
So now it's 7. Can we resume at 7:10, sir? Is it okay?
Super. Super. Thank
Okay.
you. I mean, so many interesting questions, guys. Yeah, I can see that. Very interesting questions. We will see if we can come to that. Thank you.
So students, there is a 10-minute break. We will be resuming at 7:10.
Yeah.
Sir, can we resume?
Yes, we can.
Okay, sir.
Can we?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so happy that there were so many relevant and very contextual questions which came up from our students. Um, you know, which for two reasons I'm happy. One is, of course, they understand now the whole context better. I mean, the reason why they're able to ask some specific questions. Second reason, of course, I mean, we have very little time, but I think these questions itself will, help you to kind of think and find out those answers, because these are not like question answer things, right? It's all about your personality. It's about how you deal with situations. It's about the specific context in which you have to intuitively take an action, right? So I think fundamentally self-awareness helps a lot, right? When in doubt, ask yourself, right, what is going on, right? So this principle of asking yourself, what do you really want? Why are you doing it? What is the purpose of it, right? What is the meaning of it? These questions will kind of help you to get the answer closer to what you really want, right? So with that, we'll go to the second module of the day. So we have some 1 hour now from now. It's about presentation skills. Now, some of you just put a message to me saying that presentation is the most scariest part of anything. Even on a virtual platform, it's difficult for you to, express yourself well, right? So let's see what kind of presentations are going on right now and how you can work on it, right? As a first step, possibly, uh, why is it important for becoming more employable, right? Now, how do we do that, and how do we acquire that, and what are the challenges which we face in delivering an effective presentation? Is it about the story? Is it about the data? Is it about the tone? Is it about various layers of what we are as a person coming in straight to the audience, right? So and to develop and some strategies to make some good presentations, right? Um, there are various ways. Like one is, of course, when you're asked to talk about something in a meeting, right? When you are not prepared for it, how do you start doing that? So sometimes you don't get much time to prepare for doing something. In a meeting, when you're listening to the whole thing, you might be asked to talk about or share your observation or view about something. How do you do that? I always recommend you to take a 5-second pause before you start. Two things. One is, of course, you get to organize your thoughts much better, during that 5 seconds. Second thing, of course, the 5 seconds will also give you the attention, because when you're silent, people listen to you, right? So use that pause effectively to start talking about it. And most importantly, that 5-second pause also will help you to establish the authenticity of what you're talking, right? You're not in a hurry to say something. You have gathered your thoughts in your mind and is giving yourself enough time to share that thought, right? So that gives a lot of authenticity in what you're talking about, right? So it could be either a observation you're making in a meeting when you're asked about something. In your case, I think most of the time numbers play a big role, because you are cost accountants, management accountants, financial analysts, people who work a lot with numbers. And most of the times, you would have to come out with very specific answers. wherein you have to tell the numbers in place, right? So how do you tell a number effectively, right? How do you make others feel compelling about that data, right? Not boring, right? The data can be boring and can be exciting also. So how do you convert a boring data into exciting data, right? Um, so recently, you're talking about, COVID-19 numbers and the vaccination in India and all those things. So I read somewhere that at that point in time, India is vaccinating 1 Qatar every day. So that data, when the government was facing challenge to do vaccination drives, this data itself is reassuring, right? 1 Qatar a day means that's the pace at which the country is doing. So basically, what I'm trying to say is data can be made more compelling, more dramatic, more exciting, right? So converting normal, plain, mundane data into exciting content is going to be the key challenge for you at your workplace, I'm sure. So how do you do that? How do you tell that? Because we're talking about data visualization, data storytelling. These are interesting areas which are coming up, and you have so many tools which are out there. Before that, let me come to how to do a presentation, right? Um, so it could be a social occasion, it could be a company party, an informative talk you're giving to your colleagues. It could be participating in a question answer session where you are asking questions. Each scenario, you have different ways of presenting your thought, presenting your observation, presenting your argument sometimes, right? In a very compelling way. And how could we do that, right? Now, there is a formula, which can actually help us to kind of, make any presentation much better. One is, of course, the preparation part of things, right? For example, the more you prepare, the more ideas come to your mind when it comes to doing the presentation, right? So researching the topic and having the genuine interest about the topic, right? So it is not just about the vocabulary, right? It's about how genuinely you are interested in the topic, right? The tone, the conviction, the confidence, all these things really, contribute to the presentation's success. So it's how you put the logic, how you put the story, how you make it a magic, right? It's like the logic, story, magic, data. It's like a recipe. So how do you create the recipe on your own, right? I mean, it needn't be a recipe which others tell you to do. It can be a recipe of your presentation, right? Everyone has got a very unique style of talking and sharing ideas, and that uniqueness is what makes you are, right? So always don't leave that uniqueness. You can always try to improve, but uniqueness makes you what you are. So yeah, that's one thing which I want to share with you before we start. Yeah. Now, one of the biggest fears people have is about public speaking, because the number one reason for that is that the fear of being judged by others, um, about what we think, about what we talk. So the only way to possibly get rid of that, or possibly, you can't get rid of it, but you can reduce the fear of public speaking, could be to go and try talking in small groups. So you might be thinking, oh, this is not a great solution. I mean, this is something which we are scared more about. I mean, you would have seen small groups. So if you look at right now, we have social media apps like Clubhouse, where it's an audio drop-in conversation, and you can go to a club and talk about something. People won't see you, but people can hear you. They can listen to you. They can give you feedback. You can feel what they have for you, right? The emotions are shared. So public speaking is going to be part of your career somehow or other, because even if it is a 10-member team, if you're asked to present something, how do you do that without being awkward, right? You don't have to feel awkward. What you're going to share is important information for the company, and useful information for the team members. So have that conviction about the information you're going to share with others, right? So having conviction about what you're going to share will make you a better speaker. Yeah. Now, this is how you can actually reduce anxiety, knowing your audience in advance, what kind of people are coming, preparing. When you prepare, go and prepare on a bullet points, specifically what you want to talk about. If possible, rehearse your presentation, because ultimately, when you do a presentation, it should be ideally the 10th or 15th time you're doing it in actual, right? So just like in your exams, right? The final exam is not the first time you're going to be writing it, right? You're going to be doing rehearsals, you're going to be doing mock papers and questions and problems, constantly, and then finally the final exam is like something like 256th time you're trying to solve a problem. Similarly, the final presentation should not be the first time you're going to be doing it. Instead, you should be doing rehearsal. You can find someone in your family possibly to become an audience and give the feedback. Do it often. The practice happens sometimes with all of people around us. Get their time, get the 10 minutes time, and ask them if they can listen to us and give us feedback, seek feedback from others. Now, more than the vocabulary, I would say the passion matters, right? How you are passionate about the subject, and passion is so compelling. Passion makes the listeners feel for you, right? So, and share others that you don't know everything. I mean, humility is key, because humility will help you to connect with the people, and humility will reduce the resistance. I think most of the time when someone starts speaking, there will be some resistance in the audience, like who is this guy to talk about. So basically, reducing resistance, if possible, breathing. We always say, right, when you're anxious, the best thing which you can do is to inhale and exhale 10, 15 times, and it's all about breathing, right? The voice, the sound, everything is about breathing, um, and those small things, really help to improve the presentation. And the last point is speak slowly and deliberately. Speaking fast doesn't mean that you know a lot of things. Speaking fast doesn't mean that you are smart. Speaking deliberately matters, right? I'm not saying very slowly, but deliberately real matters. So you can start practicing that. And just like how you're practicing and preparing for your exams, right? Your ICMA exams, you prepare a lot, you solve problems. Almost similar efforts are required for becoming a better presenter as well, because the more efforts, the more rehearsal, the more practice, the more time you intentionally put into it, you become a better presenter, right? So let's try to understand the different steps in which you can look at approaching the presentations. Who will be your audience? Imagine all your audience will be people above you, your superiors in your company. What is the subject you have to present on? So you have to present on some data which you've collected, and want to share with them some insight which you got from the data. And you can't make them feel that they don't know about it, even though they don't know about it. So you have to be humble. You have to show the data in such a way that, a particular insight from the data is being extracted and, kind of shared with you in an interesting way. So you should tell them why you're making the presentation and where are you going to present it, and when will the presentation be held. So understanding the context of the whole presentation can actually help a lot. What is the format of the presentation? How much time is required for the presentation? So being prepared means being emotionally prepared, being prepared with information, being prepared with data, being prepared with conviction. Never ever say things which you are not feeling convinced about, because the moment you say something which you are not convinced about, that will be pretty evident in the tone, in the way you speak, right? So always have the conviction before you speak. When do we get conviction? Conviction can happen only when you know about it, when you feel that this is the data I want to share. This is exactly the same thing which you are not compromising on the quality of the data. You are not doing a shortcut job, right? Then you feel more confident, right? So planning a presentation would be like, what format to use? Are you going to be using Microsoft PPT or Google Slides, or you're going to be making in a Canva presentation? What kind of visual support to use, right? Is it going to be a Google Meet, or is it going to be a direct meeting, or is it going to be showing in an iPad? Various situations in which you can show a presentation, right? It could be a one-on-one presentation sometimes. It could be a presentation in front of 10 people. It could be a presentation in front of 1,000 people. The number varies, right? Not all presentations you can involve the audience. Some presentations you can involve the audience, ask a couple of questions to get, reduce the resistance and go on. Right? Sometimes you can give handouts to the audience, because when you work with data, what happens is when you give handouts to the audience, it will help them to kind of assimilate the data and ask the right kind of questions to you. So if you have a well-prepared document, you can share that with the team and then go about doing the presentation. But make sure that they are not reading it while you're talking about it, right? So always give it at the end of the presentation, because then you get your full attention from the members. Some of the useful tips which we can have is to have a visual map. We call it the mind map. So whenever you want to, do a presentation, first prepare, take an A4 sheet paper and try to draw various ideas, curate the ideas, note it down, more like a mind map, right? A mind map, or what you call the word cloud. Word cloud is a set of words which comes to your mind, when you talk about something, and those words can be written down. So visual map is something when you imagine about a situation and you organize your ideas to structure your presentation in a logical manner, right? So it should have a beginning which is very compelling. It should have very meaty, it should have a lot of meat, like the stuff inside it. And then you tell them what they want to do, right? The conclusion should be call to action, right? Call to action is like, after listening to this, what should they be doing, right? Call to action, now do this, or, it could be helping them to share the observations or whatever. So in the introduction itself, specify what you're looking at. Right? It could be, I mean, you don't have to make it very dramatic in a company, like by sharing a story and all, but you can still share a story if you feel it is very important. Otherwise, you can go straight to the topic saying that this is the objective of the presentation and this is what we're going to do, and get their attention. And always keep in your mind, like, what is that desired outcome which you have in your, which you want after the session. Whether you want the superior to approve that project, whether you want the team members to start using a new process, whether you want the top management to start adopting a new automation tool. What is the purpose? What is the purpose behind your presentation? How do you want the people to act after the presentation? This must be kept in mind. About visual map, a mind map to jot down ideas. And then we spoke about word cloud, to put in different words which will help you to build the right vocabulary for that presentation, so that you don't feel like you're using that word for the first time. So most of the words you need to start using very often, so that you don't feel awkward while using the word during the presentation. So use that often, rehearse that word, practice that word, which will make you feel that you have used the word so many times, and during the presentation you wouldn't feel awkward about using that word, right? So that's where good presenters always try to, use the right words without feeling awkward. So try to put bullet points. So most of the time, note taking is an important habit for any presenter. And your career, I'm sharing with you something, a secret. Your career is going to be more and more of such presentations, because it's all about taking decisions on behalf of the presentations. You're selling an idea, you're pitching a new idea, you are persuading your top management, you're convincing your superior, you are telling your team members to do something in a certain way. Everywhere you are presenting. Not necessarily big time presentations, but you are presenting a case, you're presenting an argument, presenting a possibility, presenting an opportunity, right? How do you do that? Put the right words in place. Note taking is important. So I consider note taking as the second brain. Like whatever we have in the brain, we're converting it into some notes. So there are people who always proudly say, hey, everything is here. No, everything is here. It can't be, like, you sometimes forget. So when you watch a video, convert the ideas in the video into bullet points, share it. I mean, you document it, you store it. After some time, you can go through that and see, hey, these are the points, and you can relate to it. Because when the moment you start writing it down, documenting it, the process of comprehending that particular information will be 5x more than just trying to listen to it. So planning the presentation is about note taking, creating a visual map, mind map, word cloud, and coming out with a theme, right, around the presentation. It could be also about some sources in which you have taken information from, some statistics, some facts which will help people to open their eyes. So there are different props. I still remember in a TED talk by Bill Gates, he wanted to tell an elite audience that eradicating malaria is an important thing. And the elite audience in the US didn't understand what mosquitoes are, or what malaria is in Africa. So what he did was, like, he came to the stage, and before the presentation he kept a large bowl, a glass bowl full of mosquitoes, and then he opened that bowl out there. It was like stunning, right? People were watching this, and people couldn't even believe it. What's happening? The idea, the compelling idea that mosquitoes are creating malaria in different countries in Africa, and we have to help them, was shared in such a way that actual mosquitoes were brought to the room. We call it the prop, right? The real prop kind of thing. Props are basically aids which will help you to show what you want to say, right? So it could be videos, props, audio clips, visuals, sometimes handouts, sometimes a book. You can show a book and say, hey, I read something in this book, and the author is saying this, and this author has got credibility and authenticity in what he's saying. So you can use props, you can use books, you can show data, you can take infographic, various things. And then those things will help you to build your argument much better. Yeah. Now, when you practice and rehearse, get feedback. So sometimes the feedback will come in very interesting ways. They would say, like, you need to slow down, you need to speak more clearly, you need to, pause somewhere, you need to add a story, things like that, right? So don't get nervous or anxious when people give feedback, because feedback is a good way of improvement. And if you take feedback seriously, people with growth mindset take feedback very seriously. People with fixed mindset will always find feedback to be like critical and not good, right? So if you want to be a person with a professional with a growth mindset, you gather feedback and work on it to improvise it. So where do we get feedback? The manner of the presentation, like even after a real presentation, you can go and ask the superior, like, did you like it? Should I improve? What should I do for the next time? So having that humility to ask that question, how do I improve, sir? What do you think I should be focusing more on the next presentation? What are the areas which you liked in the presentation? What are the areas which you didn't like much? What are the areas which you think that I can improve, right? Those fundamental questions actually help you to grow, right? Fundamental questions actually help you to grow, the gathering the feedback. So manner of presentation, the clarity of delivery, the presentation aids, the kind of things which you've used, and the length of the presentation. Sometimes the presentation could be so long that people, even though like the presentation, the length of the presentation will keep the people sometimes doomed, so they don't like it. So how do I keep it shorter? Sometimes when you're passionate about something, we keep on talking about it, right? So are we aware about it? Yeah. Now, while making the presentation, not every time you know who they are. Sometimes you know exactly who they are. Connect with the audience, try to ask them questions, try to understand them, try to empathize with them. Be relaxed, nobody wants to see someone who is nervous. I mean, it's sometimes not very, you don't feel good when the person is always nervous, right? So be relaxed, friendly, greet the audience with a smile and make some eye contact. If you are right in front of a physical audience, you can do that. But right now, if you look at, I'm talking to you, I cannot see you. This is the world of remote learning. So it's interesting to see that I can't see you. I can only read your text messages, questions. Interesting world. So presentation is going to be very different in the new world, right? Helping the audience to relax and all those things. So it's possible when the group is small. When the group is very large, what we can do is to stick to the ideas, stick to the presentation so that it looks very structured and very organized. Now, many people use very loud themes, in presentations. So I would request you to spend a little bit more time on, so if you're using Google Slides, it'd be good. Or sometimes PowerPoint is superb tool, but you have to invest a little bit time to um, figure out the presentation modes, right? How to prepare a presentation. Uh, downloading good templates so that you use that templates to do that, right? Some people I've seen use some gimmicks, right? Which will look very funny during a presentation. Make sure there are no spelling mistakes or grammatical mistakes before you flash your presentation out there. Easy to read, yeah. So these are so there are for example, I use Canva a lot. Um, it's a free tool. You can get presentation templates out there, and you can put your information out there. It would look fantastic. So sometimes if it is a long presentation of 1 hour, you should include some light-hearted stuff inside there. This is an academic presentation, so you cannot expect those things. We have a very structured syllabus, so we are following that syllabus so that we can um, finish important modules. Basically, the whole idea of sharing this is to give you some cues for more further learning. So this is not learning. This is like you're introducing certain concepts, and how do you learn that much further, and how do you take efforts to learn that, right? So that's the whole idea of this module itself, right? So that's it about the first thing. Let's take some questions because I feel questions would be much better when it comes to um, presentation. I'm sure you will have some interesting questions. Okay, there is an interesting question out here. I've heard this sometimes friendly nature with audience can ruin the presentation. Interesting question, actually. Yeah, so two things. One, connecting with the audience is one, but being too friendly might not help you to get across your point. So if you want to be assertive, if you want to be persuasive, it's always good to have a bit of distance. When I say distance, it's not the psychological distance. It's all about the uh, the kinesics which you're talking about, right? To make sure that you have the authority and authenticity when we talk. Like you said, like you rightly observed, that too much of informality might not help. So, I mean, we are all people who love to be informal, friendly, and light-hearted always. I mean, but the point is, when you want to persuade someone, when you want to sell something, when you want to make an argument, when you want to convince your superior, when you want to pitch an important idea to top management, being too friendly will not help. So good. I like the question is quite contextual, and yeah, I'll wait for more questions. There are more questions coming now. So, how to overcome stammering problem while public speaking? So first of all, when we try to speak in a language like, for example, English, which is not our mother language. We are taking conscious efforts to speak in English. Sometimes in our own language, we might struggle with the right words to come. The more you talk to people, right? For example, you want to share a story during a presentation. Don't make that the first time you're sharing the story, right? Because every story has a way of sharing the details in the story, and the surprise in the story and everything, right? Which will evolve by sharing that story to 10 people, 20 people, and then finally in a presentation you can share the story in a very compelling way. So the only suggestion which I have would be is to go and do more of such opportunities. Take part in those events intentionally. This is going to be a career determinant for you. My suggestion would be to start doing it as often as possible. Don't feel this is okay, we are in the finance domain and all those things. It's going to be very, very important. If you want to grow, if you want to navigate the corporate path, or if you want to, even if you're looking at to build your own company or agency or firm, it's going to be super important. So I suggest you to start taking tiny efforts every day. Take some small efforts, and then you will find yourself to be in a very different position in 3 to 6 months time. You will find that huge difference in you. But unless you take that effort on a daily basis, it's not going to happen. See, these are not things which you can do once in a while. You have to do it daily, right? It's a daily tiny improvements. It's like in finance, you call it the power of compounding, right? The power of compounding happens when you do it daily. I mean, incrementally it happens. So small, tiny improvements will lead to some large accumulated gains, and that happens in our daily habits also. Yeah. Which type of presentation icebreakers are recommended before start? Always say why you are doing it. You can probably say that for preparing this presentation, what efforts have you made? Because people love efforts. People appreciate possibly the story behind making the presentation, or why you're doing it, right? Or the pain you have gone through for collecting the information, right? So tell the struggle, share the risk, share the story in a very brief way, in a humble way. People will appreciate that. So a good way is to probably say that, for the last 1 week, I've been searching, data and trying to gather and curate, which will get the attention of people because they would know like the effort behind collecting the whole thing. So they would immediately listen. Okay, so you've been working on it. Oh, interesting. So you've been working on, doing this presentation, and I mean, especially gathering data. So what people would give attention to is the effort and the struggle behind gathering and curating the data. And here you're getting it free. Hey, this person is coming and doing it. If I would have spent time, I would have spent 1 week to get it. Now I'm getting it like free. So you are giving a value to the other person. You're giving value. You're converting your pain into knowledge value for others. Share that story. People will appreciate that. Okay, never claim to know everything. How will you know? So you can always say that there are areas which are, so there are always 3-4 areas in any presentation. One is, of course, the sweet spot, like, a combination of two things which are like creating a favorable situation, sweet spot. There is a blind spot. We don't know about it. Weak spot is an area which is we are not really good at it, right? So we should always share that, I know this much about it, but I don't know about it. But I know a lot about it, right? So telling upfront like what you know about it will make the other person feel more authentic about the whole conversation. Yeah. Great. So this is what I wanted to share, on the presentation side. I hope you will take some efforts um, on a daily basis to improve your presentation skills, primarily through creating small ideas converted into 5 to 10-minute presentations. Share it with people whom you can get feedback from. Gather that feedback, go back to them again, ask them whether you've made some improvements. That's the way to grow, right? So spend at least 10 to 15 minutes a day to do this activity, and you can imagine in 1 month you're going to be spending so much of hours of time in personing. So don't think that you're going to be spending 1 or 2 hours a day for this, because I know that you have other important subjects to cover, but 15 minutes a day, pick up a topic, present it. One way of doing it could be like you can use your mobile selfie video. You can keep your phone and then start presenting it to there, so that I know that when you see your own face, you get a little nervous, but you can possibly do it in some other way also. Like, by recording it, what you would be able to know is like to know like how you're speaking and how your voice is coming out, how your face is there, everything. So that is one way of doing it in this digital world. Otherwise, if it is possible, then the best way is to go and talk to people who are ready to listen to you. Great, interesting questions. And yeah, Janvi, do you have anything else?
Yes, that's it, sir.
Thank you.
Can we conclude nice? Can we conclude now, sir?
Sure, we can conclude.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much for your wonderful presentation. And it really mattered a lot that the last point that you said, that while doing our presentation, we have to take a video so that we understand it better how we're doing it. A wonderful example for us, sir. And thank you so much, sir. It was a wonderful session for us all.
Thank you.
And
good to see you again. We will see again next week. Yeah.
yes, sir. Sure, sir. And thank you, students. That's all for today. So tomorrow the session is at 5 p.m. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.